Hello Yu-Gi-Oh Nation, my name is Christopher Perez and I will be your host today on Today in Yu-Gi-Oh! This program is definitely dedicated to you, the viewer, the player, the person who is trying to purchase cards, etc. If you're interested in Yu-Gi-Oh! At all, this is probably the show for you. I'm here to provide you guys the information you probably want to hear and probably need. So, looking forward, I plan to basically build up on all the news in the game, give you guys a legitimate show, try and keep the level of professionalism as well, and definitely inform. So here we go. We're going to start off with the biggest event that took place this weekend, which was U.S. Nationals, which took place in Detroit, Michigan at the Cobo Center. There were 1,671 entrants, which is a pretty good number. I think we had a bigger number last year. I think it was around like the 2000s. But we did have a winner. A man went in, took on these 1,671 people. His name was Corey McDuffie, and he came out the champion. So congratulations to him. He also happens to be a very interesting guy in general. His background does happen to be in Magic. So keep that in mind. Somebody taking a step into another arena and basically wins one of the highest prizes, which is the national champion. We also have other players to note which will be representing us at Worlds for the United States. Sean McCabe being one, Dion Ackridge, Jimmy Nguyen, and Sehabi Karadine, as well as McDuffie himself. So look forward to them representing us. I hope we have a good chance this year. We don't quite know the World's ban list yet, which I think at this point they do have the information already, the players, but we, the public, do not know it quite yet. We'll probably be informed soon, so pay attention to that, and I will definitely make a show for that. Dragon Duelists, we had 81 entrants this year. Brandon Bird, Clayton Hill were the two finalists, and they will be representing us at Worlds for Dragon Duels. So good luck to both of them. We did have a champion last year in Oliver Tomiko, so good luck to you guys. Hopefully we can keep the tradition and win it again. Another thing to note from the weekend, we have some decks. We kind of know what was played. We don't know exactly what the variants were, but we've seen one deck, we've seen them all essentially, and maybe some people did a little bit, a few risky things, like we did see Mike Steinman putting Curry Bandit in hand artifact trap tricks, and it's kind of just like, that was kind of an interesting tech choice. But we had 7 Yugioh top, 4 hand artifact trap tricks, 4 Sylvan, 4 Fire Fist hand artifact trap tricks, 3 Medolce, 3 Infernity, 2 artifact trap tricks, 2 Bujin, 2 Dragon Ruler, 2 Mermail, 2 Lightsworn, 1 Prophecy, 1 Heradic, and 1 Frog OTK. I don't necessarily think this is the Frog OTK of Legend, but probably just a variant that utilizes the Monarchs, etc. So those were some of the decks. Everybody probably felt Lightsworn was the deck to play just because of the 3 structure decks coming out and a lot of the new monsters coming out that had a lot of combo potential, but people went with conventional wisdom. What was topping? What's the most consistent deck? And at this point, it's Yugioh. Yugioh had 7 of these tops. We don't know the other portion of it, but we probably will learn soon enough. But from what we know at this point, I'm pretty sure Yugioh will be the number 1 deck just because it has a standard engine, plays a lot of traps. It's very, reactive to your opponent. And like I said, it does have just a standard engine that searches, that recruits, and it just recycles over and over. Those decks definitely get a plus in this because no matter what the situation, they can always refill. And of course, Yugioh being what it is, kind of busted. So speaking of Yugioh, we are heading into a new format. New ban list takes into effect today, the 14th. Things to note from this ban list: Rhoda to 2, Mirror Force to 3, Dimensional Prison to 3, Goyo Guardian making its return, Formula Synchron going to 2, and Yugioh going to 1. So seeing Yugioh top probably won't be too much at this point. I mean, they still have the potential. They still have the Karakuri version, which a lot of people will kind of just be like, man, like that deck was okay, but it's still good. Like, it's still very powerful in the right situation. So look for Yugioh to probably extend to that style of play. I mean, they could still manage with just 1 Yugioh, but I think the Karakuri engine might see a little more play. That's just my personal opinion. Rhoda to 2 is notable because warrior monsters are very, very prevalent in this game. Probably a lot more warrior monsters than any other type. And there are a lot of setup warrior monsters, for example, Armageddon Knight being one, Dark Grepher being another one. So like those types of monsters can very, very much improve the speed of a lot of decks, like the BLs, BL spam decks, Infernities, and then Shadal's, which will be coming out in the Duelist Alliance. Mirror Force to 3 will be a force to be reckoned with. I think it might be a little bit overkill with Mirror Force and Deprison at 3. Like, it's going to be very difficult to attack. Deprison at 3 does help the problem with the hands because they don't necessarily resolve their effects to get banished, so that's a very simple correlation to make. Yugioh Guardian is going to be something to be reckoned with. It is a reality now. It is meta. It was just something that we knew about for weeks, but now it's there. It's going to be on all sorts of online sites, and it's going to be at events, so definitely pick one of those up if you don't have one, if you want to win competitively, because majority of the time, Yugioh Guardian, 2800 beater, level 6 synchro, we're finally getting it back again, and it's going to be a pain in the ass, I'm telling you guys. Next thing to know, Pendulum Summoning is here! We're Pendulum Summoning again. Pendulum Summoning is going to be a thing in the meta. We got the Time Gazer Magician, we got the Stargazer, so we've got a lot of things to be looking forward to, new deck designs, new deck builds. I know when we first got the idea of Pendulum Summoning, people were playing Pendulum Scraps, kind of learn, the process of doing so. The one thing we're kind of missing for that type of a deck to do very, very well is Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon, which will be coming out in Duelist Alliance as well. That will be a very hyped card just because of the fact that it basically sets up the entire deck. It searches out the 2 Pendulum monsters that you can set up. So also it being level 7 is very critical. 2500 beater, like that thing's going to be ridiculous once a solid Pendulum build comes into fruition. So look forward to that. Pendulum Summoning exists. This is a very, very awesome time. Supply Squad. Supply Squad is going to be very, very bad. Like, Supply Squad is going to essentially replace what is Upstart Goblin. People probably play both, but that's just an insane consistent draw engine. You kind of have to like space to get rid of it, but then people are playing a lot of traps as well. So that's a lot to take into consideration. New rulings take into effect now. We're now in it's now new rulings. First person doesn't get to draw, and each player can control their own field spell, so activating your field spell, your opponent can have one as well. It's kind of going to be difficult. It's going to be, there might not be enough targets to destroy, and if you're playing a heavily reliant field spell deck, you're just going to have to kind of bite the bullet, maybe space that. Decks like Gravekeepers get an advantage in this because a lot of people just activate their own field spell, but that's just not the case anymore. That's not a way to get rid of it. So they're actually going to have to waste resources, and of course, a deck like Gravekeeper carries Imperial Tombs, all sorts of other traps, etc., that do help them out tremendously. So keep that in mind. Market changes. This is one thing I want to focus on with this segment. Yugioh are dropping a little bit. Yugioh going to 1 hinders it a lot. So we might see a lot of the cards in that deck kind of backing down, falling down because people aren't really going to be playing it that much. Maybe they'll still try and play it. Maybe there will be still one person that's going to try and pilot it, kind of like how Windups, Windups got hit, they lost Zen Mighty, and then people just kind of, still kept going with it. Or no, Zen Mighty went to 1, and people still kept going with it to try and perfect the engine. Morale Talks going back up. Artifacts starting to rise a little bit, not so much the spell and the trap, not so much Sanctum and Ignition, but the artifacts in general are starting to kind of come back up because they just won Nationals. Like, these are just kind of things to expect because Nationals doesn't necessarily, it does, but it doesn't necessarily affect prices unless something broken comes out. We didn't necessarily have something like that. There wasn't an interesting tech to consider. At this point, it's all speculation, it's all theory, and it's all, this card could possibly work well against this deck. So, at this point in time, we are seeing, Morale Talks go up. Mathematicians are actually going up. Mainly, I assume, because of the fact that Formula Synchron goes to 2, it helps out a lot of decks. Basically sends one monster to the graveyard. and does a lot of, it's very versatile and has a lot of utility. It's now a $7 secret. Used to be like $4, $3. It's now gone up a substantial amount. $3 is pretty big. It's nearly like 45% of the original price. Another card that has gone up is Different Dimension Ground. This card is starting to become relevant, mainly for the fact that when you activate it, all monsters are sent to the graveyard or banished instead. So the loss of macro, the loss of dimensional fissure, this kind of sublimates that, but doesn't necessarily do it too well. So at this point, I think it's just hype tech for the side. $10 a piece though kind of says a lot, and mainly because it's only Super and Star Strike Blast, so clearly it's only made one edition, and anything Star Strike Blast is gonna get like $10 price tag as well. And also, to talk about the market in general at this point in time, everything's pretty stagnant. We still need to know what's in the Megatins exactly. We don't know everything yet. So reprints are still coming. Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's Legendary Collection hit a lot of cards. It hit a lot of money cards. It's going to be reprinting a lot of that. We saw scraps rise in price temporarily because people were thinking about the Pendulum scrap deck, but that whole deck will be most likely seeing a reprint in the 5D's collection. We're going to get a ton of Blackwing reprints. We're going to probably see all the Formula Synchron stuff. We're going to see Karakuri reprints. So many, just to note, like, everything's just going to kind of stagnate for a bit, but the one money set that's most likely going to be very high priced is going to be the Duelist Alliance, because we're going to be getting Shaddolls. There's no sign of a reprint coming whatsoever, so all of those cards will probably be worth value. All the high rarity ones, if any of them are low rarity, clearly they'll sit within the $1 to $5 target if they're commons, possibly rare. But I mean, unless they're like a critical card to the deck, for example, Shaddol Falcon being one of them. Like, Falcon's pretty essential, Dragon's also very essential as well. So Duelist Alliance will be kind of an expensive set simply because the reprint season won't touch it most likely, but we never know with Konami, and that's just my assumption just on watching the market for years. So anyways, thank you guys very much. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Question of the day: what do you guys think about the new rulings? Is going first better, or is going second going to be the choice? Because at this point, a lot of people are saying they want to go second just because they don't get a draw, but we'll see exactly how that takes into effect, because you also have to remember, going first, you get to set up the field, and then your opponent has to react to it. So take it easy, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. Thank you very much. This is Christopher John Jerez. See you later.